Iconoclast Speaks.
Welcome to the Iconoclast Speaks. I am the Iconoclast, and I'm here with Too Lit.
Yeah.
All right, so Dad Bod was unavailable, and so was F-Boy, so I brought in Too Lit to also reach out into the younger generation. Today, because it just happened, we're going to be talking about daylight savings, which is pretty much a thing that only happens in America, where on Saturday night at midnight, it went from, or early Sunday morning at midnight, all the clocks got pushed forward, so you lost an hour of sleep. And they do it close to spring every year. I really don't understand why, and I absolutely hate it. You said you know some of the history behind it.
Yeah, so. Well, the reason that they made daylight savings time was because, well, this is, in World War I, they needed to save off of coal. Mm-hmm. So they invented daylight savings time so they wouldn't be wasting all this coal for the day. Like, they would take it out of the lanterns or stuff like that. So
it made sense then.
Yes.
Okay, so there was a reason behind them doing that.
Except that was like for saving resources, money for the war.
Right.
Like,
so now it's been many years since World War I, and now we're like in 2018. And so there's no need for that because, one, I mean, we do coal, but we do nuclear, we do solar, we do wind. So I've heard the argument that some people say, well, it's for the farmers, but if you look into it, the farmers hate it because it messes up the milking schedules for their cows. One thing, I think it's ridiculous because another argument people always come to is like, oh, but it gives you more daylight. That's just total BS because guess what? The sun is going to be up the same amount of time no matter what time you do your clock. Us changing the clock does not change when the sun rises and when it sets. It's always going to rise and set at the same solar time. Our clocks don't change it. So if you want to be up early to see the sunrise, just wake up early and go to bed later, whatever.
Well, I also heard that the reason they have daylight savings time is because people will usually get like a little depressed if they're just in darkness the whole time, or actually no, not in darkness, but in the day. They, like, some people don't want to be out in the sunlight all day. They find that depressing.
Or well, I know some people are like, well, I like to, when I get off work, I don't like it being dark. Well, guess what? Even if you don't switch your clock around, the sun is up longer. So when you get out, if you were to get out because of daylight savings, a lot of times the sun doesn't set till 8 p.m., almost 9 in some places. So even if you don't spring it back, all that crap, if you left it where it's at, that would just be like the sun is setting at 7. Most people are getting off work at 5 or 6. So guess what? You're going to get out and it's still going to be daylight. For me, I don't like it because I have little kids. You have siblings that are young. Mm-hmm. And I don't like it because then when I'm saying, okay, time to go to bed at 8 or 9, the sun is just setting, and they're like, it's daylight time. And I'm like, no, you got to go to bed. It's still 9. So it just makes it harder to be a parent. And if you're a grandparent, which one day I might be, I don't know, but if you're a grandparent and your grandkids visit, eventually you want them to go to bed too because you're old, and old people go to bed at like 7 p.m. Day's up or, the sun's up or not. They're going to bed at 7, and they can't handle it. So... Like, I think daylight savings, it's time for it to end. I know in the state of Florida, they're actually going to vote on getting rid of it. And that will be interesting because that will be weird because, we're in the same time zone as Florida.
Yeah.
So when we change our times, when we drive down to visit our relatives in Florida, they'll be an hour different, depending on what time of year. So we could be driving there and all of a sudden we have to change our clocks to meet what the state of Florida does. And it's going to be very strange if individual states start pulling out of daylight savings because of how that works. And I used to live in Ohio, and in Indiana it's Central time, and in Ohio it was Eastern. So there was a town in Indiana that was on the border of Indiana, Ohio, and one side of the town was an hour difference. And you would just cross the street and it would be an hour different. So it was like really weird. And the only time they matched up was during, like, I don't remember if it was in the fall or in the spring, whichever it was. At one point they'd be on the same time because of daylight savings, because I think Central Time doesn't do the daylight savings. But
Well, are they still like that to this day?
yeah, it's still like that.
So why haven't they changed it?
I don't know. Why do we have daylight savings? It's an unneeded thing. Like you said, it was made for World War I, and to save the coal for the war effort. We're currently not in a major war like that, so we don't need to continue it. I really don't understand why it was continued. I'd like to find out why. Do you guys know why daylight savings is continued even though the war's over and there's no need for it? Leave it as a message below and let us know what you think. And I want to just thank Too Lit for coming in and stepping in for Dad Bod and F Boy. And we'll see you next time. And I don't know who's going to be here. It could be Too Lit, it could be F Boy, it could be Dad Bod. You don't know, but I will be here. So thanks for stopping by, and don't forget that this episode was brought to you by Disco Ball Man, the comic book. Go on Amazon, you'll find it there. There's the first comic's there. Number 2 is on its way. You can actually pre-order the Kindle version of number 2 right now. If you go to Amazon.com, type in Disco Ball Man comic, you'll find the issue 1 and 2, and check them out. Let them know that you heard about them from us, and buy it because they're helping us out. So thanks again for stopping by. See ya.
Lit.